Historic deals between China and the United States. We're joined now by Bonnie Glaser, the Senior Advisor for Asia at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Bonnie, thanks for being on the program.
Thanks for having on both sides to really forge a better and more cooperative relationship. And so whereas out of Sunnylands in last year, 2013, we had a lot of very positive rhetoric and favorable atmosphere. This year, what we have are really substantive deliverables that will benefit the people of both of our countries, the region, and indeed the world. And I think that this really signals that the United States and China can work together where their interests overlap, and where they have differences, they can manage them.
So let's talk about some of those differences, cybersecurity being one. Do you see a way these two countries, now they have achieved these three major agreements, they can narrow the differences on more sensitive topics?
Well, I think that we can hold out hope that the deliberations regarding cybersecurity can be resumed sometime next year. That was not an outcome of this particular set of meetings in Beijing. China still seems reluctant to reconvene and talk about cyber issues. But President Obama and Xi Jinping did continue their conversations about cybersecurity. And so maybe sometime next year, if the Chinese agree to come back to the table, then we can look for a way to narrow our differences on this issue. There are some commonalities between the U.S. and China in the realm of cybersecurity. The major difference, I think, is whether or not cyber can be used to steal trade secrets. And that is where President Obama's highest concern lies.
Some people in China are concerned that the so-called U.S. pivot towards Asia is a way for U.S. to contain China. Your reaction on this?
Well, I think one of the most important statements made by Xi Jinping and also separately by President Obama is that the United States has no such intention to contain China's rise. I hope that the Chinese people are listening to that statement by both presidents. I really think it's time to set aside this myth of U.S. containment of China's rise and focus on the real problems in the relationship, try to narrow them, resolve them where we can, and to identify areas where our interests do overlap, and we can really work together in positive ways, countering terrorism, promoting stability in Afghanistan, and of course, working together on climate change.
Bonnie, how do you think these agreements will be viewed in the United States and in China?
Well, I think that some of these agreements are going to be controversial. Climate change is going to be at the top of that list. I think that we've already heard the Senate Majority Leader in the United States, Mitch McConnell, express some skepticism about whether we should proceed with this agreement because it would damage the middle class. I'm sure that there will be interest groups in China that will have reservations about this deal as well. And it is therefore up to the two leaders to work hard within their own domestic political context to sell this agreement, to ensure that by the time we get to the Paris negotiations next year, that the U.S. and China are in a position to follow on and follow up with the commitments that they have made. If there is no follow-through, then there's going to be difficulties going forward. But I'm relatively optimistic.
Well, on that note, we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much, Bonnie Glaser.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate your time.